coming off obviously a disappointing Saturday at Georgia. We reset and refocus on the effort this weekend at Missouri. And obviously anytime you suffer a defeat, it's hard. I think when you don't play as well as you'd like to play, it makes it more challenging. And coming out of the stretch that we've just gone through, certainly, our players and staff have been tested, and one of the challenges this week is to pick up and say we're moving forward and looking for our potential as a program and as a team. We've shown flashes of that this season, and we're waiting to put it all together in a total effort. There's no reason why we can't do that this weekend, and we're going to play a good conference opponent on the road, and we're excited to do that. So with that, I'm happy to open up for questions.
Was this a burn the film week, or how did you handle it?
It's never a burn the film week. There's always something to pull from, and what we saw in that game was twofold. One is failed to make the available play on offense. We have good players that were in good positions that, I'm thinking specifically about Shep getting on top of the corner and having a chance, and we're gonna bet on him 10 out of 10 times. He just came up short on that one. We had a wheel route on the sideline in the first half that to Jaden McGowan that would have been a score, and then obviously the fumble on the drive that we were sustaining there heading into halftime was a big swing of momentum too. So making the available play offensively, and recognizing too the teams that we've been beaten by in the last three games have never failed to capitalize on those plays, right? So every time they've been in position, they've been able to strike. Every time our ribs have been exposed, they've landed the punch. And we have to have the same approach on our end offensively too. Defensively, I thought we have to work to stops. We have to get stops, and so 3 touchdowns were scored in the red zone on third down. There were opportunities in the first drive, to make a stop early on a third and long, and that comes down to both design and execution. I did feel like we battled. I thought defensively we battled in the third quarter, surrendered 2 field goals, and I thought started to see positive trajectory that way. Obviously we didn't finish the game the way we wanted, and that was frustrating defensively. But for us, it's about the way you go from participating in the game to being a dominant force in the game is about being detailed and execution. We're not problem solving right now on the field. So when we have issues, when we have structural breakdowns, they're getting exposed. But if we have 11 guys that commit to doing their job and doing their job at a high level of detail, and we have good design, then we're going to have an opportunity to build those stops and to play better. And I thought at times we showed that on Saturday against a really good opponent. Thought they made contested plays, and you got to give them credit for that. That was the learning we took from the game. So that's a lot there. We focused on where we can find those details that'll take us from a run play on the first snap of the game that went 1st and 10, 2nd and 2, that just an attention to detail and execution would be 1st and 10, 2nd and 10, or 2nd and 11. And those things matter when it comes to playing dominant defense, and we can do that. We're not there yet.
How do you and the staff keep the locker room from crumbling after losses like these, and also how important is it that the player leaders on the team kind of take charge in a situation like this?
Yeah, both important. Losses are hard. Losses, they challenge you, and I think in these moments, we have everything is temporary, and so you work through and you turn the page and you take the learning, you move forward. But what's permanent are the choices you make when you're facing adversity, and I think that reveals your character, and that's been the message to both the staff and the team. Look, in the end, our losses reflect where we are as a program. Our losses reflect, you know, the product we're putting on the field right now, both from a planning standpoint and an execution standpoint. That doesn't mean that we have to accept it. You know, that means that we have to work to improve it. And to do that, you've got to be willing to move past it, move past the sting of the result, and focus on the things you can do to get better. But you know, we have a resilient group of players and a resilient staff, and you know, building a program is challenging, and we're in the throes of that challenge. And you know, for us right now, it's about keeping perspective, because you know, again, we've also had flashes of really good play, and in the end, we've gone through a tough stretch playing 3 consecutive top 10 teams, and we've lost 4 games to teams in the top 15 in the country, and our best effort is out in front of us. And so you know, we use that perspective to help you know, shift focus and say, look, what have we learned to this point? Where are we falling short? What can we do better? And then let's go as hard as we can at the next opponent, which this week is Missouri.
Along those lines, Clark, you kind of touched on it. Do you use that, the gauntlet that you've just gone through, to kind of contextualize the situation with your team, and maybe the sun's a little brighter now on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we don't live in a competitive world where we want to defer to the strength of the opponent. You know, our goal is to match that, is to put pressure on the opponent, is to play our best. And so obviously we need to provide context for what we have experienced, but without you know, making it seem as though somehow that's all right, because it's not okay. You know, when we come up short in the last 3 games, last 3 instances, and then throw Wake Forest in there too, there are certainly things within our control, and so it's about us taking control of those things and doing those at a higher level, and putting our team in a position to win a game late. And unfortunately, in all 3 of those games, Wake Forest, Alabama, and Georgia, the opponent's been able to distance themselves early, and then we're pulling from kind of energy reserves late. You know, in all 3, we played too many snaps on defense. You know, so again, this is a recurring theme, but you know, when we're not able to sustain drives offensively, we're not able to get our run game established. It challenges our program, and you know, we have to do a better job on that side of the ball, and find that rhythm offensively. I thought against Ole Miss, you kind of got a glimpse of what that can look like when we're playing complementary and playing together. And again, coming out of that game, it's about sustaining, you know, sustaining that mental intensity, sustaining that effort through 4 quarters. So we look for perspective always. There's always a narrative within the season you're trying to learn and grow from. You got to be able to pull up and really understand what you're experiencing and you're going through. And yet, you know, when we get down to it, our focus is just on playing our best, on Vanderbilt's best effort, no matter who we're playing against.
You had Cooper Lutz listed on the depth chart this week. Is he going to be available this week, and is Chase Gillespie going to be available?
Expecting Cooper to be back. You know, that's going to be kind of day to day, but he's trending that way. Chase is a little more questionable for Saturday, but you know, we're looking with the bye week to follow for him to return healthy at that point.
Mizzou's defense has had a lot of success this season. What are your impressions of that when you watch them?
It's a really good defense through the middle. Their defensive line is disruptive and they're physical. They have an aggressive style of play, you know, in terms of their design and in the way their players, you know, attack each rep. And you know, they have good players, and they've done a nice job. And you know, in that way, I think this defense will be, you know, equal to a lot of what we've seen to this point. And so we're going to have to work to create space for our offense.
Cole Spence is on the depth chart. Is that? I mean, there's 5 games left, so is he potentially going to play in this one? Do you hold him until after the bye week?
Obviously, we're exploring all possibilities, and I'm not ready to commit to, you know, him being out there against Missouri. I think it's a matter of kind of seeing where the pieces fit. But we know we have a talented player there. We know we have a player that can help us win, and so you know, we're anxious to see where he can help. If it's this week, great. If not, then obviously we know he's got 4 coming off the bye, where we can hopefully work in it.
Is Nick Howell in the box Saturday or on the field?
He's going to be in the box. We obviously went to that format last weekend, and I think we agreed that it gave him a better chance to look. It comes back to what my experience was as a coordinator, and I was in the box, and I felt like it kept me from entangling in the emotion of the game. You kind of can stay above and think ahead. And see things for yourself a little better, and so that's kind of the design moving forward. I think anytime you're again still working through chemistry on the staff and still working through where people's eyes are best. I can recall a couple times where again back in my days as a coordinator, we made some changes based on who's up, who's down, and you're just trying to get the communication lines as tight as possible, make sure there's presence on the sideline that can be inspirational, can harness the best effort from the players, but also gives your coordinator a chance to have great eyes and great vision, and again stay above that emotional fray sometimes that exists out there on the sideline.
So opponents' success passing the ball against your defense, obviously some of those are breakdowns and some of those are just good plays by the other team. Do you see, when there are breakdowns, do you see those more on the outside or in the middle of the field?
They've been both. I mean, I think our pass defense is a reflection of some flaw there, and that's where we've put a lot of attention over the last few weeks. I thought Georgia's success was more contested. I felt like even coming out of the Ole Miss game, you didn't see the explosive rate, right? It wasn't the same level of chunk plays for scores. And so we're getting there in design and in execution, but we've had breakdowns inside and outside. Against Alabama, it was 2 double moves that went for touchdowns. And again, we're not right now shortening downs. So when you have secondary that's growing, we got to be able to shorten the down at times and win a one-on-one up front, and we haven't been able to do that, and so that adds more stress. And I thought in the second half, particularly in the third quarter, we were able to dial into some pressures that shortened the downs and made the quarterback uneasy in the pocket. And I thought that was important, and that's going to be an important part of the design moving forward. We gotta find ways to create discomfort back there, because against the teams we're playing, if you give the quarterback time and he's got room to make a read, they're going to find a completion. So.
How do you cover a player like Luther Burden at Missouri, who's one of the top wide receiver recruits in the country?
Yeah, I mean they're both good in personnel and good in design. They've got a really smart offensive scheme, and you got to be careful. And with Luther, he's got a unique skill set. He's a twitchy athlete that they find ways to get the ball in a lot of different ways. So being aware of where he is, being aware of who's guarding him, being aware of who's capping him, and just kind of designing around him, and then for our players to have awareness of where he is and know kind of the ways they like to feed him the ball from various positions.
Can I ask you to kind of piggyback off of that, but just about their offense in general, aside from Luther? They seem to be kind of the team trying to figure out what else they can do. What do you see on the film?
They challenge you in design, and Coach Drinkowitz does a great job. And I've had the chance to defend him, or I guess the burden to defend him a few times in my career, and he's always put stress on you in the run game, and then just in the way he designs formationally. They have a lot of creative formations that create necessary communication on defense and awareness on defense, where if you don't have that awareness, or if you don't have that communication, you can have critical breakdowns that can lead to scores. And they haven't been able to connect on all those to this point. Again, their defense has played really well too, and that's what the combination of the two have kept them in close games. But this is a capable offense and a really good design, and they have good players, and we're gonna be challenged.
They're coming off a bye week. When you're playing a team that's coming off a bye, did you plan for potential wrinkles that they could throw out there, or how do you approach that? Because you don't know exactly what they're going to add.
Yeah, they have plenty of wrinkles within their, the available play menu where you can see adaptations off those, and so sometimes you might have seen one play out of a formation that becomes a complementary play, and so certainly you're anticipating that and trying to think one step ahead. But also it's during a bye week you're looking back at what was successful when you're on the bye. So we need to also pay attention to kind of what they've had, what's generated success for them, and anticipate them using those sets and those players in those ways, and being prepared to defend them. But they're also an offense that's going to have an identity. So we're going to see the stretch run game. We're going to see the favorite formation show up, and just like any team, they're going to want to play to their identity on Saturday too.
What does the run game need to do to get going more than it was this weekend?
Well, similar to talking about winning one-on-ones on pass rush. We played against an opponent that was able to expose us at times on singular blocks. They closed space down inside, and I thought they pursued well at the second and third level too. So when we did have space, they closed it quickly. Good teams are going to do that. When we were at our best against Ole Miss, we were able to physically move the line of scrimmage to create enough space for our backs to get going. We need to do that this weekend against Missouri, and that obviously talked about their defensive front. That's going to present challenges, but I believe in our line of scrimmage. We've developed an identity up there, and Coach Blazek's done a great job. They'll be prepared, and they'll be ready to get our backs loose.
Anything else? Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.